Hello everyone, this is Becca from Willow Hill Designs, and today I'm showing my finished page for the Roxy's Journal of Stitchery for the month of June. It's all completed as far as I know, and I just thought I would share quickly where I'm storing my pages as I work on them. When I am these are not kept upstairs in my sewing studio because up there I have my quilt projects and project bags and needle books in my work area. So I wouldn't want to add to all of that. So it's nice to keep everything separate and where I can get at them easily. And these boxes are easy to find. You can get them in Joann's or I would imagine Michael's or Hobby Lobby, any place like that. And it has a little magnetic closure. And this is just a nice place to corral everything. And that way, when I sit down to stitch, I have everything right there that I need. I don't have to go looking for anything, and it's not in and amongst my other things, my quilting things. So in here, I keep my needle book, which is nice because I have a nice selection of needles in here, which, you know, sometimes you need fine and sometimes you need a heavier needle. And I keep laces that I've chosen for this project or even for other projects. The past projects, I still have some pieces of lace and little images that I saved to use on these projects. So I keep that in here. That's easy to get at. And I have my little Ort container. And when I have my random threads that I am finished with, I just pop them into this jar. And this is from 6 months of stitching, so I'll go through a lot of these and I'll take out the ones where there's a lot left and I'll wrap them onto the stitch bows and keep them there to be used again. No sense in wasting them. And I keep this little tin in here. This is a little tin that I keep in here with my my Valdani thread, my pearl cotton, and also my thimble. I keep my thimble in here. It's easy to get at. And when I'm stitching, I can just grab my thimble, just pop it on. And I keep a tweezers in here just because, you know, sometimes we have to rip out stitches and it's nice to have it handy right where I need it. And I keep fray check in here because there are those little tiny pieces that we're adding that if we stitched near the edges, it would really fray away to almost nothing. And sometimes you'd hate to lose the image, and you don't want to cut it too big so that there's all background around it. So I keep fray check for that. I also have a very good pair of scissors for cutting out fine little pieces. This is a Karen K. Buckley serrated scissors. These are very nice. It serrates the edge so it doesn't fray as much. I mean, some things you want to fray and some things you don't. And I also keep some Sue Daily glue in here because sometimes elements are too small to stitch. You don't want to have to stitch them down, and I'll just use a dab of glue. Or even on the big ones, I'll just put a little dab in the corner and just to hold it there. Many times I don't tack. I go straight to stitching. I get everything in place, and then I go straight to stitching. So that glue comes in handy to keep here. I have another bottle upstairs, so that works out well. And this is a little box where I keep my sewing machine thread because sometimes I use this for the invisible stitch. Sometimes I use it for appliquing. On this piece, I used it to do some borrow stitching. And I have a little needle minder here, and it's easy to I just pull the colors that I want for this particular project and I put them in this box so that, again, everything is handy and easy to get at. And in here I keep my embroidery floss, and these are the stitch bows. I'll take these little random threads if there's enough of them, and I'll wrap them also around the end of the stitch bow. And why waste the thread, really? So that's everything there contained, and it's easy for me to get at, and I like that. And it also keeps your projects clean. With little grandchildren around, sometimes you just never know if something's going to spill. So I just store them right in there. This is June's block, or page, I guess, completed. And if you saw my last video, I'll just tell you briefly that the fabric that I used around this is a hand-dyed silk du peony. I had dyed it a few years back when I made a quilt for our daughter for her wedding. And so that's what this background is, just pieces of that silk. And I just did some sort of burrow stitching with machine thread, sewing machine thread, a 50 weight, very fine. I didn't want anything too heavy on there. And the other prompt was a heart, and so I knew I wanted to do a cutaway heart, and I wanted it to look like a little window or a little doorway that you're peeking through into another world. So I did this reverse applique heart, and I showed that in my last video, which I will try to link in the description box here. This lace that I used was a white lace, and I coffee dyed it, and I just cut it out so that it would look like a branch sort of arching down over this little peephole, this little keyhole that you can peek through. And I added some green DMC, one strand of green DMC thread with a back stitch, just to outline the vein down the center. I just wanted to add a little color, but nothing too heavy. And on these flowers and the lace, I just did a large French knot with, I think, 4 strands of thread in sort of a deep peachy rose like this color, and then a sort of a light pumpkin on there. And that's all I did on that lace. I just stitched that down invisibly. And here I added some seed stitching around the heart, just on this light peachy color, and just to sort of give it a little bit of texture and interest. And then in these corners here, I wanted some flowers. I'll just make sure I'm showing that. I wanted some flowers in the corners, and I took some wool felt that I have, and I just cut circles out, and I used 2 colors. I used this pink, peachy pink, and a very pale pink, sort of a blush color. And I just cut circles out and notched them, just little notches around the edges. And then I attached them with a French knot in the center, kind of keeping the color theme the same. So this is an ivory, and then that deeper pinky, peachy rose. And I drew some vines or some leaves and branches with a Frixion pen, and did Lazy Daisy and some stem stitch on that, just to add a little bit of greenery to that corner. And then lastly, I added this little verse on here, which meant a lot to me. It tied in with the fact that this is my brother's birthday month, and on his balcony, in one of his potted plants, a mourning dove had made a nest, and there were 2 little eggs in there. And so we found this after he left us, after he went to heaven. So that meant a lot to me, and I've always loved this verse, and the verse is, and I left out a portion of it because I only had so much room here. And the verse is, the flowers appear on the earth, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. And I loved that. I thought that was so pretty. So I thought that was a perfect addition for June for my brother. And again, I added 2 little buttons here. I had printed this on just a muslin fabric, and I added 2 little buttons here, again, keeping in that same color theme. And I think that it's done. The only other thing that I might consider doing is to add some beads. I was thinking of adding some maybe little crystal beads around this flower wreath, around this little keyhole opening. So that's a possibility of something that I might do, but if not, I'm going to consider this finished. So that is June's page, and that will go in here. That will go in here next to the little bird. So I think they'll look nice together. The colors are kind of similar, so they will go together. That'll be stitched in. This, I'm in the process right now of stitching the little bird page in, and this will be the last. And then I'll be adding the poem here that I talked about in my last video, and the block for my brother, and one more little writing on the very last. This is the last signature, and that's what will be in those things. And this is the block that I am doing in remembrance of my brother, to honor him. And the only thing that I have done on this, I haven't begun any stitching at all. I just very lightly glued down these little elements, and I will start sewing on those. And I will have time now, between now and the end of June, to work on this and hopefully be finished by July, when we get our first prompt for the, I think it's a winter season or Christmas season, the next 6 months. I don't know if I will be able to keep up with 2 pages per week. I have no idea. That's a lot. I'm probably going to be in the process of moving my sewing studio downstairs, and I'll be kind of busy with that. So I don't know how much I will be able to keep up with those prompts, but I'm going to try my very best. But anyway, I just thought I would share these things with you. I always enjoy seeing everyone else's pages. They give me inspiration. I love, love, love to look at them. And I wish you happy stitching. Thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.